It was her mother's voice, and it was already over, and it wasn't enough. Poppy sat, trying to breathe, with tears running down her face. She hung there, ringing the phone cord, listening to the faint buzz on the other end, like a prisoner in court waiting to hear her sentence. Hello? Hello? Her mother's voice was flat and tired, not acerbic. Prank phone calls were no big deal when you'd just lost your daughter. Then a click signalled disconnection. Poppy clutched the earpiece to her chest and cried, rocking slightly. At last she put it back on the cradle. Well, she wouldn't be doing that again. It was worse than not being able to hear her mother at all, and it didn't help her with reality either. It gave her a dizzy Twilight Zone feeling to think that her mum was at home and everybody was at home, and Poppy wasn't there. Life was going on in that house, but she wasn't part of it anymore. She couldn't just walk in anymore than she could walk into some strange family's house. You're really a glutton for punishment, aren't you? Why don't you stop thinking about this and do something distracting? She was snooping through James's file cabinet when the apartment door opened. Because she heard the metallic jangle of a key, she assumed it was James. But then, even before she turned, she knew it wasn't James. It wasn't James's mind. She turned and saw a boy with ash blonde hair. He was very good looking, built about like James, but a little taller, and maybe a year older. His hair was longish. His face had a nice shape, clean-cut features and wicked, slightly tilted eyes. But that wasn't why she was staring at him. He gave her a flashing smile. I'm Ash, he said. Hi. Poppy was still staring. You were in my dream, she said. You said bad magic happens. So you're a psychic? What? Your dreams come true? Not usually. Poppy suddenly got hold of herself. Listen, I don't know how you got in. He jingled a keyring at her. Aunt Maddie gave me these. James told you to keep me out, I bet. Poppy decided that the best defence was a good offence. Now why would he tell me that, she said, and folded her arms over her chest. He gave her a wicked, laughing glance. His eyes looked hazel in this light, almost golden. I'm bad, he said simply. Poppy tried to plaster a look of righteous disapproval, like Phil's, on her face. It didn't work very well. Does James know you're here? Where is he? I have no idea. Aunt Maddie gave me the keys at lunch, and then she went out on some interior decorating job. What did you dream about? Poppy just shook her head. She was trying to think. Presumably, James was wandering around in search of his mother right now. Once he found her, he'd find out that Ash was over here, and then he'd come back fast, which meant, well, Poppy supposed it meant she should keep Ash occupied until James arrived. But how? She'd never really practiced being winsome and adorable with guys, and she was worried about talking too much. She might give herself away as a new vampire. Oh well. When in doubt, shut your eyes and jump right in. Know any good werewolf jokes? She said. He laughed. He had a nice laugh, and his eyes weren't hazel after all. They were grey, like James's. You haven't told me your name yet, little dreamer, he said. Poppy, Poppy said, and immediately wished she hadn't. What if Mrs. Rasmussen had mentioned that one of James's little friends called Poppy had just died? To conceal her nervousness, she got up to close the door. Good allow me a name, he said. I don't like this yuppie thing of taking on human names, do you? I've got 3 sisters and they all have regular old-fashioned names. Rowan, Kestrel, Jade. My dad would burst a blood vessel if one of them suddenly wanted to call herself Susan. Or Maddie? Poppy asked, intrigued despite herself. Huh? It's short of Madder. Poppy wasn't sure what Madder was. A plant, she thought. Of course I'm not saying anything against James, Ash said, and it was perfectly clear from his voice that he was saying something against James. Things are different for you guys in California. You have to mix more with humans. You have to be more careful. So if naming yourselves after vermin makes it easier... He shrugged. Oh yeah, they're vermin all right, Poppy said at random. She was thinking, he's playing with me. Isn't he playing with me? She had the sinking feeling that he knew everything. Agitation made her need to move. She headed for James's stereo centre. So you like any vermin music? She said. Techno, acid jazz, trip hop, jungle. She waved a vinyl record at him. This is some serious jump up jungle. He blinked. Oh, and this is great industrial noise. And this is a real good acid house stomper with a sort of madcore edge to it. She had him on the defensive now. Nobody could stop Poppy when she got going like this. She widened her eyes at him and blathered on, looking as fey as she knew how. And I say Freestyle's coming back, completely underground so far, but on the rise. Now Eurodance on the other hand. Ash was sitting on the square couch, long legs stretched out in front of him. His eyes were deep blue and slightly glazed. Sweetheart, he said finally, I hate to interrupt, but you and I need to talk. Poppy was too clever to ask him what about. These sort of eternal void keys and troll groaning sounds that make you want to ask, is anybody out there? She finished, and then she had to breathe. Ash jumped in. We really have to talk, he said, before James gets back. There was no way to evade him now. Poppy's mouth was dry. He leaned forward, his eyes a clear blue-green like tropical waters. And yes, they really do change colour, Poppy thought. It's not your fault, he said. What? It's not your fault that you can't shield your mind. You'll learn how to do it, he said. And Poppy only realised halfway through that he wasn't saying it out loud. Oh, spit! She should have thought of that. Should have been concentrating on veiling her thoughts. She tried to do it now. Listen, don't bother. I know that you're not a lamia. You're made, and you're illegal. James has been a mad boy. Since there was no point in denying it, Poppy lifted her chin and narrowed her eyes at him. So you know. So what are you going to do about it? That depends. On what? He smiled. On you.